But then there are some moments that serve to remind you that despite distance, despite vastly different histories and experiences, there are many things that connect us. In June 1989, the Prime Minister of Pakistan stood on this spot and delivered the commencement address titled, "Democratic Nations Must Unite." She spoke about her journey, the importance of citizenry, representative government, human rights, and democracy. I met Benazir Bhutto in Geneva in June of 2007. We both attended a conference that drew together progressive parties from around the world. 7 months later, she was assassinated. Now, there will be opinions and differing perspectives written about all of us as political leaders. Two things that history will not contest about Benazir Bhutto. She was the first Muslim female Prime Minister elected in an Islamic country when women in power was a rare thing. She was also the first to give birth in office. The second and only other leader to have given birth in office almost 30 years later was me. My daughter, Niamh Tiaraha Ardern Gayford, was born on the 21st of June 2018, Benazir Bhutto's birthday. The path she carved as a woman feels as relevant today as it was decades ago. And so too is the message she shared here in this place. She said, partway through her speech in 1989, the following: "We must realise that democracy can be fragile." Now, I read those words as I sat in my office in Wellington, New Zealand, a world away from Pakistan. And while the reasons that gave rise to her words then were vastly different, they still ring true. Democracy can be fragile. This imperfect but precious way that we organise ourselves, that is being created to give equal voice to the weak and to the strong, that is designed to help drive consensus, it is fragile. For years, it feels as though we have assumed that the fragility of democracy was determined by duration, that somehow the strength of your democracy was like a marriage. The longer you'd been in it, the more likely it was to stick. But that takes so much for granted. It ignores the fact that the foundation of a strong democracy includes trust in institutions, experts, and government, and that this can be built up over decades but torn down in mere years. It takes for granted that a strong democracy relies on debate and dialogue, and even the oldest regimes can seek to control these forums, and the youngest can seek to liberate them. It ignores what happens when, regardless of how long your democracy has been tried and tested, when facts are turned into fiction and fiction turned into fact, you stop debating ideas and you start debating conspiracy. It ignores the reality of what we are now confronted by